Good morning, everyone. My name is Vignesha Pradhaini and I'm from Batch N4B.
Hi, I'm Denishari Murthy from Batch N4B.
In this presentation, we will discuss the application of the law in Malaysia. Tariff law is a part of a law that tells government authorities how to use their powers and make decisions. The main goal of law is to make sure that public authorities act fairly and follow the law. Administrative law also help protect people from being treated by a government agency. If a government agency makes a unlawful decision, the person who is affected can challenge that decision in the court. So administrative law plays a role in making sure the government is accountable. Second one is application of administrative law. The application of the law starts when the parliament gives government ministry, departments or statutory bodies the power of make decision thought the laws. These government authorities are in charge of putting law into action and making decision about things like license, land use, immigration, education, and taxes. Before making a decision, the government authorities must gather all the information, think carefully about the facts, and follow the rules set by law. Every decision must be fair and reasonable. If someone thinks a decision is unfair or against the law, they can go to the High Court to challenge it. The third decision making process. There are steps in a process of making administrative decision. First, the government actually gathers all the facts. Then it thinks about the law and politics that apply before making a decision. The government actually must also make sure that people who are affected by the decision have a chance to be heard before a final decision is made. If someone challenges the decision, the court can review whether the government authorities follow the rules and did everything correctly. This helps make sure that the decisions are fair and that the government is accountable. The next one is rules of law. One of the important principles of administrative law is the rules of the law. This means that everyone, including government authorities, must follow the law. No government authority is above the law. Every decision must be based on the law. The rules of the law prevent government authorities from misusing their power. If a government authority does something that is not allowed by the law, the court can review the decision, cancel it if necessary. This protect people's rights, help people trust the government. Next is natural justice. Another important principle is the natural justice, which can make sure the decisions are fair. Natural justice has two rules. The first rule is that people have the rights to a hearing, which means they can present their case before a decision is made. The second rule is that decision makers must not be based and must avoid having an interest in other matter. By following the principles, government approach can be decision and people can feel confident that their fight are protected. Advocacy law and the rules of the law and the natural justice are all the important in Malaysia. Administrative law helps to keep the government accountable and make sure that people are treated fairly. The rules of the law and the natural justice can principally that help administrative law work effectively in Malaysia.
Next, I will explain the other important of principles of law. First principle is reasonableness. which means government authorities must make decisions that are fair, logical, and based on relevant facts. The second principle is procedural fairness. This means every person has the right to be treated fairly and should have the opportunity to present their case before decision is made. Another principle is legitimate expectation. If a public authority has made a promise or followed the consistent practice, people may reasonably expect it continue unless there is a valid reason to change. Administrative law also promotes transparency in decision making. Government authorities should clearly explain how and why their decisions are made. Finally, there is a proper use of discretion. Public officials must use their powers responsible and according to the law based on the personal options or bias. Now let's look at the important case study, Sri Lanka Enterprise Sendirian Berhad versus the government in 1979. In this case, the land authority refused an application unfairly. The court decided the public authorities cannot use their discretionary powers, however they like. Their decision must have lawful, reasonable, and made in good faith. This case established the authorities cannot act arbitrarily or abuse their powers. Today, it remains one of the key cases in Malaysia administrative law because it emphasizes fairness and accountability in government decision making. Although administrative law is important, there are still several challenges. These include the delay in government decision making, lack of transparency, abuse of discretionary powers, and low public awareness about legal rights. To improve the system, the government can introduce more digital government service to make process faster and more effective. There should also greater transparency in decision making, better training public officers, and more public education so that citizens understand their rights under administrative law. Although administrative law is important, there are still several challenges. These include the delay in government decision making, lack of transparency, abuse of discretionary powers, and low public awareness about legal rights. To improve the system, the government can introduce more digital government service to make process faster and more effective. There should also greater transparency in decision making, better training public officers, and more public education so that citizens understand their rights under administrative law.